Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above Average Shoe Show! Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Above Average Joe Show. Today, our special guest is Ramuel Galarza. And as always, I am your host, Joe.
My dog speaks more eloquently than thee.
And Ramuel, I was trying to think today of how to even start with describing what you do in the film industry and what you've done. But I realized that I would have a list that was about 3 pages long. So we're going to try and narrow it down just a little bit for everybody. And we're going to pick some things that I haven't had guests for yet. And since we've had actors, we'll try not to focus on that as much. But I know that you are a writer and a director, and you've worked on your own projects that you've written and directed.
Yes, I've been writing and directing short films basically since actually like middle school, high school. Went to school for it at Florida State University, graduated there, and writing, directing, and producing my own work since then, really.
And as a director, which I'm going to reveal something that I probably shouldn't about myself, is that I honestly didn't even know exactly what a director did as of like 6 months ago. I had a completely wrong idea of what they were in charge of. And just so people know what I was thinking, is like they direct the actual cast. And that was the limitation that I thought that they had, because I never got to go into the meetings with the director and stuff. But there's so much more that they do. Can you try to explain in layman's terms to anybody listening what a director does and what their responsibilities are?
Yeah, so director basically is kind of the visionary leader of whatever project they're directing. They do direct the cast, collaborate with them, but they're also working with the cinematographer, the person who's shooting the movie or the film. They're working with pretty much every department, the editor, the sound designers, and the costume department, the art department. They're like the key point person guiding the rest of the departments into one cohesive vision for that one project.
And as the director and writer, because you've done both before, how does your writing influence your directing and directing influence your writing as compared to if somebody else wrote or somebody else was directing?
Like usually when I'm writing, I kind of, if I know I'm going to be directing it, kind of set my own limitations as far as like when I'm writing a story, I kind of know like what can I do, what can I not do, can this be done? If it's not going to be able to be done realistically, I just usually don't write it. So like that's why I don't do a lot of either fantasy or like westerns or those kind of genres, just because I know like I'll probably be able to direct that myself. But when I'm writing without really envisioning myself directing, I kind of give myself more freedom to kind of think outside the box a little bit and to kind of play with my imagination, I can say. And from when I'm directing something that someone else has written, it's really a joy because I get to kind of bring my own person to someone else's work. So it's kind of a merging of two ideas, and it kind of becomes this separate thing, which is really a really fun and beautiful thing to experience. That happens as well when you're being the actors into it. Their performances kind of change it. And it's a beautiful little melting pot that becomes the final product.
And then if you're directing with somebody else who has written something, how much do you go back and ask the writer for their input, or do you just take the script and make it your own from there and just let them know, hey, I've got it, just back off? Or do you collaborate, or does it just depend on who the writer is and the situation?
So far, I'd say it depends on who the writer is. I mean, usually I'm very collaborative, just because I have mostly like a writer's background. I treat it almost like you would treat a play. Like I don't try to like change it really. I don't try to make it my own per se. I may interpret the themes differently and bring my own interpretation of those names to the directing. If I have a question or if I don't understand something, I would go back to the writer and ask them, like, hey, can you clarify this, or can we talk about what this means, or what is your intention, and can I tell you what I think it means, and maybe maybe through that we find something, either middle ground, or maybe they like what I say about it more than what they intended. Because I think that's the beautiful thing, is when you write something and someone else, like an audience member, sees it differently or gets something out of it that's different from you intended. I think that's the beautiful part of art, is that it can kind of come out of your hands and become something else.
And then as far as your writing goes, I've heard that a lot of like Joss Whedon scripts it'll read more like a novel, to where it'll just put that image in your head. How much detail do you usually go into your writing for another director to use, or for somebody else to read through?
I don't write it as a novel, even though my writing started with short stories. So usually my short stories are very descriptive and have a lot more imagery, using the senses and everything. Screenplays is a lot more, I guess, technical. It's a lot less descriptive. I may be more descriptive with the characters, how they look, what they're wearing.
So you're a lot less
scriptures.
You're a lot less detailed and kind of leave it open to interpretation for different camera angles and different actions, unless it's a necessary action.
Right. I'd say with screenwriting, I'm usually like more like I think my structure and my dialogue is more focused. It's more my style, I guess you could say, like more important in my screenplays rather than like the actions itself.
And then, how much prep work do you put into the projects before filming, from a director's point of view? Do you usually storyboard? Do you write a list of set decorations that you need? Do you do a bunch of cold reads and rehearsals with the cast? Or do you just kind of send out the scripts and say, let's all get together on Thursday and we'll just film this thing and get it done?
It's more that last option. It's mostly that. Just because, when I was younger, it's just mostly just me and my friends shooting something, and we would just, honestly, kind of an improv film, like we would just get my friends together, we'd set a day, like they'd come over, and we'd say like, okay, we have 2 girls and 1 guy, here's our cast, what's your strengths, what's your weaknesses, and we just kind of made the characters right there, and then as we're shooting, we're starting to form the story. So I kind of do that similarly, where I guess, it was like you said, it's where it's more like, here's a script, who's available what day, let's go shoot something. If we can, like for Roommates Unwanted, we would definitely prep, like, wear this, here's the costume, or if we need a certain prop, we'd go out and get a crew together for it. But I don't really do storyboarding, I think just because of that kind of more improv background, where I didn't know what was going to happen to be, so I couldn't prepare for it ahead of time. I think I do nowadays write like a shot list, like things like that I think would serve the story best, but most of the times it's just me getting with the actors in the space on the location and basically figure it out on the day of as we shoot it. If there's something that I feel like for the aftermath, I definitely met with the actors beforehand and rehearsed with them, just because I wanted to see how what they would bring to the table, what the chemistry was going to be like, if there are any kind of interpretations I wanted to kind of shift or guide. That was more important, so that I did more rehearsals for that project, if I have the luxury. But a lot of times I don't have the luxury of either seeing the space or meeting with the actors beforehand.
Yeah, and I feel like Adam McKay, who directed Anchorman, Anchorman 2, and several other movies, I've worked with him before, and he, to me, I don't know, I haven't talked to him and sat down with him, but I feel like he does a lot of that same similar thing, to where, okay, here's the script, go through it. They do 1 take according to the script, which I know that for sure because I've been on set while we've done it, and then they'll do like 10 to 15 improv scenes that, as long as you can get to the same ending, we're good to go.
Interesting, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. And so with like Anchorman 2, when we shot that, they had so much extra footage and alternate scenes that they could have literally made a second movie out of it. with a different plot.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
So yeah, incredible insight there.
Yeah, I
Um,
like that.
and then you also just moved to New York from Atlanta, which is why we are doing this remotely, in case anybody is wondering why this isn't live and why he's calling in on the phone. It's because he's across the country.
I am, yeah.
And what prompted your move?
Well, I have some family here. My sisters live here, so I kind of wanted to be closer to them. We're all kind of going through major life changes as adults, so I thought it'd be kind of nice to do that all together and kind of support each other through that. I also came here, I was kind of looking for artistic growth in like photography and in film opportunities. Just kind of wanted to push myself a little bit and kind of learn more.
That was actually going to be my next question too, is how does this affect you in the film industry? Are you giving up on film and pursuing other things, or are you still going to be pursuing? And I am going to actually jump to a question that I was going to ask later, but how does this affect a season 3 of Roommates Unwanted then?
We'd always say like, if there are finances or sponsorship, budgeting, or if a producer wanted to resurge it, or like somehow we can get the whole cast paid to come back together, we would consider doing a season 3.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. And we were going to actually continue our conversation on Roommates Unwanted after a word from our sponsor.
Is your bathroom sink covered in several toiletries? Toothpaste, hand wash, face scrub, body lotion, dry shampoo, and possibly even your Zofarax or Lysine? Oh boy, do we have a solution for you! Loricrasti Plastifernum Quad Oxide, the first all-in-one cleaner for every part of your body. Yes, every part of your body. Now you don't have to worry about accidentally swallowing your shampoo. Loricrasti Plastifernum Quad Oxide is made for hair and teeth. You can literally go straight from brushing your teeth to scrubbing your warts without even having to switch brushes.
Wow, Lori Crasty Plastifernum Quad Oxide, you're the best!
This product is not currently available and has not been thoroughly tested. Not for use on babies, small children, teens, senior citizens, and most adults. In most cases, Loricrasti Plastifernum Quad Oxide has made test subjects warts in herpes worsen. Available in banana cream or hazelnut. Refunds only available to the resident of Cambridgeport, Vermont.
Welcome back, everybody. We are still here talking with Ramuel Galarza, and we are going to talk about one of my favorite web series. Probably not, I don't even know if it's one of, it might be the favorite web series of mine, actually, honestly.
Oh,
Award-winning web series, too. Roommates Unwanted. You were the writer, director, one of the stars of the cast, and, like, everything all-encompassing on this project. What was the inspiration for starting this? Did you have a bad roommate at some point? Was it just like living with your family and your siblings? Just like, I remember what that was like, so I'll just take those ideas, or was it just a random idea that was like, you know what would be funny? Let's do this.
it kind of mostly came out of frustration, mostly because I've been working as an editor for CNN. It had been about 3 years since I'd made anything since film school, and I was just like, I was friends with Sarah, who was the other Sarah Robertson, the other executive producer on the show. We were friends at the time, and I've just been looking around at our other friends like Phil and Darian, who are actors and weren't really doing anything at the time. And I was like, well, Atlanta's becoming a production hub. Why aren't we doing anything? And so I made a short film called Roommates, kind of not really. It's kind of like a fun little comedy. I want to see if I could do like an official comedy because I've never really done one before. I'd like made parodies with friends in high school, but nothing that I'd taken seriously, like with the craft of filmmaking for a comedy short. So I made that. People liked it, and I had been living with 4 other guys in the house that we actually shoot the show at.
Are they in the show also?
No, they're not in the show.
Oh, okay.
At the time, I did think about like they thought about the idea like, oh, we have it's 5 guys in one house, like it could be like a show, and I was like, oh, it could be a show. I never made like a web series or made any kind of serialized content before then, So I thought it'd be a good challenge. I was like, I know it's probably difficult, but give it a shot. Let me see if I can even do it. And so I met with Sarah, kind of asking her about casting and kind of sharing the idea with her. And she said, well, why can't I be in it? I was like, yeah, there really is no reason why you can't be in it. So then we basically turned one of the guys to her. And then from there, kind of figured out like, well, you can't just have one girl and four guys, not really even balanced. So then we thought, okay, well, you have you and someone else who's like two girls, and then we have me and Phil, two guys. We need Darian. So like, okay, we have three guys and two girls. How are we gonna get this group of people into this one house? And we just talked about ideas, and we came up with the premise of why don't we have Darian be this like douchey landlord who basically tricks these two pairs of friends into living together into a lease that they can't get out of. And it's an incredible house, so they just decide to basically stay in it and live with each other. And that's basically how the show became born.
And for actually writing the scripts, do you and Sarah both collaborate? Do you take turns taking episodes to where you write one and she'll write another one? Or you come up with just the plot line and I'll write the first three, you can write this one? Or are you guys just throwing out ideas, or how does the concept of everything come out and work out between you two?
Yeah, so it was different. The first season, because we were basically trying to treat it like an actual show, so we were writing the show while also like shooting it, so we were like in pre-production for an episode, while also writing one episode, while also post-production of another episode, while also releasing the other, like you would for real television. But it was just me doing everything, so it was a lot of simultaneous work that was like harder than I expected.
Oh, yeah.
So like because of that, we would we wrote the first episode together, and we would kind of switch off from there. We would write the last episode together and at least one or two of the middle ones together, but we kind of switch off just to make it easier so that we don't have to meet each other the whole time. But we would always. After we finished a draft, we'd always come back together, talk about the episode, what should be changed, is it going to be cohesive with the season. With the first season, it was interesting because we were writing as we were shooting, so we could we were basically, like I did in high school, kind of making up the story as we were going along, so we could adjust to what the audience was liking, what they weren't liking, what they wanted. With the second season, we knew we were going to take more time shooting it, so we kind of met together all at once. We invited some other writers to come in. And basically we came up with an entire season arc for the most part, and then wrote the first episode together, and again the middle one and the last one together, and kind of divided the rest amongst ourselves and the writers.
And you, as we stated, play the lead character of Gabe, and Sarah plays the other lead character. If you want, you can comment for her on this question too. How much of you is in the character of Gabe, and how much of Sarah is in her character? Since you guys already knew you were going to be the stars, did you base it on yourselves, or are you guys playing somebody else?
I think we mostly based it on ourselves. Like most of the characters are kind of based on their personality, just because we were kind of rushing to the right a little bit. Not rushing, but just kind of like it just kind of made it easier.
So Doucheman is based on. That's how the real guy is?
I mean, we exaggerate. That's the beauty of comedy.
Okay.
We took Darian's kind of quirkiness and like the weird things that he says just because he's such an eccentric person in real life, but we just like made him say like weirder things in the show. But Darian was amazing because he I don't think he ever realized it was kind of himself, but he became this other character, this other person within the show, and so it became something different, really. But the essence of who he is still this was the seed of it all. With Tyler and with Gabe for me, he's pretty similar as far as grounded, I guess to me. But I wanted to kind of change some things, make it a little different to kind of give myself a little bit of acting challenge. I kind of just subdued my joyfulness and kind of gave that more to Sarah, to Tyler's character. She's more giddier, happier, optimistic person, and I'm but she is in real life. And I'm more of the kind of pessimistic, cynical Gabe to kind of balance each other out for story. And I think also we kind of realized we balanced each other out that way as well as we were writing. I just didn't realize how cynical I was in real life. so, yeah, but and also Sarah's very kind of goofy and awkward in real life, and so we kind of enhanced that within the character Tyler. But I kind of gave Tyler my kind of rap kind of fight, I guess. But she's very, antagonistic, or as far as like she's very, determined, but kind of goes into a kind of foolish way. And I think that kind of I took part of myself into that a little bit.
And on Roommates Unwanted, you have one of my best friends from like the last decade. Jessica Schmal is one of the characters that you had cast as the character of Courtney, which Jessica is nothing like Courtney, which there's a funny story that if you listen to the other podcast, you'll get that story later. But Courtney is like the psycho ex-girlfriend that doesn't seem to realize that she's been broken up with, but knows that she has. And I'm curious, have you had this experience before, or where was this drawn from? Or you don't have to name names. I don't want your exes to come back at you if you have any. But I'm just curious on where you even thought of this character, because in my opinion, and it's not just because Jessica played it, but it's one of the best characters in the series because of how just extreme she is.
Yeah, she totally is extreme. It's great. And she played it so well. I loved it. No, I don't have any exes. Never been in relationships, so I've seen my whole life. So really, just honestly, I think the seed of that just kind of came from first of all knowing Jessica, and like I know to bring her on because she was interesting. She's a cool person, and she's game for working on a project. And I don't know, I just saw her eyes one day and I'm like, whoa, those are crazy eyes. And she has an expression. I'm like, have you ever played a crazy like ex-girlfriend or something? She's like, no, but I would love to. I'm like, you haven't? I'm like, oh, you're totally gonna play one in the show. And so I basically wrote it for her. And I love writing for actors, and I love writing against type. So, like, when she said that she's never played a character like that, I'm like, well, then I'm definitely going to show the world that you can do it, because I know you can do it just with your eyes alone. But I say that, I just thought of the extreme of, like, what if you had a girlfriend? Like, what makes someone crazy is, like, well, this girlfriend that, what if she really didn't realize that she was broken up? Like, what if she's so in such denial that she won't let go of this person? And, like, like a true psycho, but she just doesn't know it, and that's what makes people even more scary and stuff. I think she's kind of like the culmination of every maybe man's worst fear, but also like I kind of envision if the needy part of me, the needy part of me is her if I was not in control of my own self. I think I would just become Courtney. So I just wrote like, what would I do if I was this crazy person? Like, probably this. I just wrote it to Courtney.
And then along those same lines, do you have any personal bad roommate stories? Again, you don't have to share names or anything, but have you had any experiences that are anywhere near similar to what happens in the series that you may have drawn from? But if you had a fight in a bathtub with another guy, you don't have to tell us. Spoiler alert. Sorry, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. If you haven't seen that episode, go and watch it in season 2. You're gonna love it. That episode was written by Nadia, that's all she wanted was just to write to that scene, and so we made sure we did it well for her. It was fun. But I wouldn't say I had bad roommates. I think I just had like roommates that because I was learning to live with other people, and so it's like they have certain
certain quirks.
There are different quirks that like maybe annoy me, but I'm pretty sure like I have quirks that definitely annoy them. So like, if anything, I was probably the bad roommate in retrospect.
Aww.
But like there are some like incidences that I observed in the house that I thought were super funny and that did go into the show. And then funny enough, they were still living in the house when we were doing the show, so like they did later on one of them actually asked me like, was that based on me? I was kind of like, yeah. I think because they do. So like there are 2 episodes based, like the chicken episode I think episode 3 of season 1 is based on a real kind of incident. I mean, we took it, more extreme.
Yeah.
But that was based on something that happened in the house. That, and I mean, the worship scene in what do you call it? Episode, I think 6 of the first season.
That is one of
also
my favorite scenes, by the way.
Like, that was kind of like based in reality, like kind of like, because I was in an actual worship. I was like in a worship environment once, like at someone else's house, not our house, but like suddenly, someone went to the bathroom, and the bathroom was basically in the living room, so it was like a small apartment, and it just got really quiet, but you could fully hear through the walls. You could hear someone peeing, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I'm like, "Is no one else?" I was looking around, like everyone else is kind of pretty, trying to be serious and prayerful, but I'm just like, I'm trying not to laugh. This is hysterical. I can hear the flush. I can hear every single drop that's happening in that toilet, and so yeah. So I took the kind of that little seed and we expanded it into the show and like how to make it, work with the characters and basically having full-blown diarrhea within this worship session.
And it turned out beautifully.
It did. That song, by the way, Push It Out Jesus song, like he improvised that song right there. And we, like, he's like, I don't know how to play guitar. I'm like, it's okay, just improvise a song right now and go. And he did, and me and Sarah, like, just cried laughing, and like we just fell on the floor. It was the funniest thing we'd ever done. It was great. It was beautiful.
And did you give him like guidance on like what to improvise, or did he come up with like all of the lyrics on his own at that moment?
I think he did all the. I mean, I'd say he did all the lyrics. I think we did. Like he did ask, like, what should I say? I said it'd be best if you keep it within the themes of this episode, which is poop and Christianity. Jesus. So if you can find a way to merge those two things together, then it'd be golden. And that's what he came up with.
Yeah, that whole episode was just brilliant from start to finish. Especially with the gluten-free food. And just everything builds up literally, like builds up physically and in the script. And just explodes at the end. It's hilarious. But yeah, if anybody listening, you can go on YouTube, look up Roommates Unwanted. There's 2 different seasons. Every single episode's hilarious. And you probably want to start at the beginning, kind of work your way through, because it does build up a little bit, especially in season 1 with the Courtney story, to where if you start with the finale, you're not going to have any idea why there's a chick fight.
Yeah.
And one of the funniest chick fights you'll ever watch.
That was so complicated and so fun to shoot, and to coordinate all that action, that was great.
And we had already touched on this a little bit about season 3, but I'm going to kind of follow up on that a little bit. But if you had to write a season 3 and somebody came to you like right now is like, hey, I've got $10 million, I want to see a season 3, what kind of ideas do you have that maybe the storyline could go for? You could pick any of the characters. What are some ideas that some of the characters might go for or do or end up or...
Yeah, I'm trying to think without giving any spoilers for those who haven't seen the second season, because a lot that happens in that one. I would say I did have an idea of like kind of, definitely expanding on, I think, Phil and his whole immigration status and kind of conundrum that's, his conflict with that, especially in the modern climate, but also like just like how is he hiding in America with his family, basically. Because I think that'd be hysterical to like there's one episode where he like invites a new friend for dinner and they realize that he's like an immigration officer and they're just like, oh crap, okay, how do we not make any sudden movements? Don't let him realize that we're illegal immigrants essentially. And I think, I'll let you decide if you want to cut it out or not, but spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, go watch second season now. But I think we end season 2 with Gabe and Tyler's kind of, sparked romance. Someone actually pitched an idea for like the opening of season 3, which I don't want to give away, but it was just, I actually thought about it, like, that's actually a really great opening for season 3. So we have like the opening episode for season 3 already like kind of written in my head. and we basically explore that relationship more. Like, would they stay together? Would it work out? Would it just be like a fluke, one-time thing? So that's kind of the things that I think I would see in season 3.
And I would assume we would explore all the different relationships that happen in season 2? Because there
Yes,
are
definitely.
several that have sparked since the first season.
Yeah, we definitely also, Leif and Courtney will always be in the show forever. So, like, we'll definitely see what's going on with them. Which I just love the idea that, like, the two craziest people actually make the most stable couple. It's like, I'm like, wow, they had the strongest and most sane relationship from these two insane people. So maybe they're the sane ones. Maybe everyone else is just the most insane.
Oh, that's so true to life, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Sadly. Let's go ahead and take a quick break again, and we will be right back to talk a little bit about your personal project that was close to your heart. But first, a word from our sponsor.
This episode brought to you by Courtney. She's here. She's watching me. She's making me say this. Courtney, the one and only Courtney. And now back to the show.
And welcome back, everybody, from the break. Hope you enjoyed that foamercial. And we're going to go ahead and take more of a serious turn here for this next segment. And we are going to talk about a project that is near and dear to Ramuel's heart that he had written and directed and worked on in several different capacities, again, as he does with all his projects. This is a project called For Ben. And I know very little bit about this project. I heard about it from our mutual friend Jessica Schmall, and she said that this would be a great conversation piece, so I will be learning along with our listeners about this project. So if I interject questions, they are legitimate questions that I don't know, let alone the listeners may not know. But if you want to just let us know what it's about, the background about it, and how you came up with the ideas, and we'll go from there.
During the shooting of the first season of Roommates Unwanted, I met a friend. His name was Ben, and he was really interested in film, and he kind of basically helped us shoot a lot of the episodes. And he also helped me shoot the short film previous to Roommates Unwanted. So I've known him for like a couple of years, basically. But during the filming, he actually. I found out that he passed, he died, and I was kind of taken aback. So I'm like, well, he's so young. Like, I don't think this could have been like a natural cause. Like, my mind immediately went to like, I think it sounds like he committed suicide, because I've heard that he may be having some issues and dealing with depression medication. So I kind of, I went to his funeral with Sarah. We kind of knew him. So that's that loss and that grieving. I know it's kind of brought back, and at first I kind of thought, oh, it's just really a teenage issue. But when Ben died, I was like, oh, this is clearly something that still needs to be talked about in adulthood. And because I'd grown up a little bit more, like, I wanted to kind of basically revisit that issue, but in an adult way, and kind of explore those themes in a more mature fashion, not as clean cut or cut and dry as I did in high school. So that inspired me to make this film called For Ben. Basically, this exploring grief, the kind of survivor's guilt, maybe like how someone else's loss or maybe sparks certain things within you, like your own depression or your own suicidal thoughts, and how do you fight that on your own, and how do you deal with it when maybe no one else is dealing with those kind of thoughts? How do you not feel isolated, not feel alone, and how do you find understanding within, in a way that maybe the other person who did commit suicide couldn't find.
And how was this cathartic for you, writing this and then filming it? And how difficult was it having to relive a lot of those emotions of the loss of a person who was close to you?
I'd say it was, like I said, I'd say it was cathartic just because, like, I was writing it and even shot it. Well, I was writing it kind of in the midst of shooting the second season of the show, so I didn't have much time to really think about it because I was so preoccupied with the show at the time and getting that done. And we were shooting it. We shot it while I was also in post-production for the show. So and I just come back from LA and I was also writing something else. So like I didn't really have time, I guess, to really feel all the emotions or kind of revisit that. I think I felt it most when I tried to put it on the page, but I really relied a lot on casting great actors to carry those emotions and to feel it, and they certainly did. Like I felt it through them while shooting, while rehearsing, and so they kind of brought it out of me and brought it out for me through the script. So that was great. I think that also those emotions kind of, I say the film really came together in the editing. That's kind of the purpose of the project, was to kind of shoot it kind of Terrence Malick style, where it was like Tree of Life, like more memories, just kind of improvising again, with also while still having like a grounded script. But the edit, I kind of knew I was going to be able to change it, kind of make it however I wanted to. And so I'd say I really found the story and found the emotion in the editing room.
And you had other cast members that you had just mentioned that had worked on it with you. Having not seen the project for Ben, what characters did they play in this? Is it like going into the afterlife? Is it just the friends and how they cope together? Or is it how everyone isolates after a death? Or how does that all fit together?
Yeah. The film is about this character named Ben. I actually named, like, Ben is not the only Ben is not the only friend of mine that committed suicide. I've had 4 other friends before him. So like Ben was like pretty much number 5, and so I named all the characters after other previous friends of mine that had passed away. So there's Ben, who is the main character, and there's Austin, who's like his best friend basically, and then there's Jess, who's their mutual friend. They hang out all 3 together. And basically, it's about Ben and Jess are hanging out and found out that their friend Austin committed suicide, and Ben is clearly very touched, very hurt by this, and is grieving over this. And Jess visits him after the funeral, kind of trying to console him, trying to work things out with him. It's really just like kind of an experimental piece, I guess, with Ben kind of going back to his memory, he's trying to go back in his mind, trying to search memories for like, what were the warning signs? How could I have prevented this? What did I miss? What did I not see that maybe I could have changed or to stop it from happening? So that you kind of seeing his guilt process through memories.
And you had mentioned that you used a different editing style with this, and that a lot of it was weighted upon how you decided to edit it. Can you go into a little bit of detail about the editing process for this project as compared to maybe the other projects you've worked on?
Yeah, so this project for Ben, I knew I wanted to shoot it a little bit more freeform, kind of similar to what I did in high school, with the actors together on the day. I knew there were certain scenes I wanted to shoot, but I also wanted to leave some room for improvisation, especially creating memories. Kind of wanted to see how the actors would react together and what that would inform. So we shot some scenes that I had written as far as memories, but then we also got in a car together and just drove to Wendy's. We shot the whole car ride. I kind of guided them on what interactions to say to do, and like basically just say that you're all in a car together, you're friends, you're going to McDonald's or going to Wendy's to eat something. And so that way, like, I knew in the editing room I could kind of take whatever little segments and kind of put in different places, and it would feel like fragmented. A lot of it's like very fragmented memories kind of coming together. I was really influenced by, I guess, Tree of Life, but also by Arrival, which I'd just seen, I think, that year. And I love that movie, Arrival, and the way they edit and use memories to tell the story and to build the story, I thought was really brilliant and beautiful. And so I was heavily influenced by that and by Tree of Life.
And where can people watch for Ben? Is it uploaded on Vimeo or YouTube somewhere, or can they buy it off Amazon? Or
Yeah, you can. It's on Vimeo, and you can also go to my website, ramuelgalarza.com. It'll be in the film section.
And we're going to take another quick break here. We will be right back.
This episode brought to you by the Poo Balloon, the first balloon designed with your poo in mind. Why would anyone want a poo balloon? I'll give you 5 great reasons. Number 1, it's sanitary. It keeps your toilet cleaner for longer. 2, it's biodegradable. Just bury it anywhere and it's instant fertilizer. Number 3, it's flammable. You can leave it on any pesky neighbor's front porch and easily ignite it. Number 4, it's edible. If you eat it, your poo will excrete inside the balloon before you even ever smell it coming out. And number 5, it's fun. Just add water, and you have more than just a water balloon. You have a poo balloon.
I know that you're very strong in your faith and that you are a Christian, and we've kind of chatted loosely about it. And so some of my questions about that is, how do you balance your faith in the projects that you do, or do you keep them separate? For something that's similar to like suicide and death, it seems like your faith would somehow at least influence that project a lot more than it would with like Roommates Unwanted, other than if you're doing a Jesus poop scene, which we already discussed. But
Yeah, that's true.
but as far as your faith goes, how do you balance that with the projects that you work on?
I know you say balance. I'm like, I'm not good at balance. Like, what does that word mean?
Well, how much influence, I guess? How much do you let it influence? Do you completely just ignore your faith when you're doing projects, or is it something it's still there because it's a part of you, or?
I can't ever ignore it. I think I just use it as my strength as far as storytelling. So I think you hire certain writers, for their individuality, and I think my faith is what kind of helps make me individual. I just try to let the humanity show through the faith, and not let it be something that's going to deter someone, or let it be something that's going to like make them, not want to watch the content. Because then what's the point? What's the point of making something they're not going to watch it? Like, you want them to see your stuff. Like, I'm not afraid to make fun of my faith, like we did with the worship thing. Cause that's part of being human. It's like, if you hear poop during a worship session, like, that's humanity. It's not making fun of Christianity. It's just part of it. It's all together. So I think it aligns with it.
Everybody poops.
Yeah, everybody poops. So
Jesus pooped.
Oh yeah, I know. There's sometimes I think about that. I'm like, I don't know if I should think about that. But it's so fascinating. Like, where did he go? Did the disciples see him? What happened? Those are things I think about. So that's an example of in a comedy how that plays together. But also, I say for Ben, in my previous work, when I made a version similar to before, the ending was very optimistic and very deal with depression, but Jesus is there and he'll help you. You'll have friends. But kind of after realizing, through life, I'm like, well, that's, if clearly people are committing suicide, that's not their reality. Maybe they're not, and Ben, a lot of these people that I knew did grow up in church and did go to church. So it's like, well, clearly that's, they're still dealing with something that's, there's something lost there. So I think I try to take it to a more realistic perspective, kind of exploring that thing of what about those who don't make it? What are they experiencing? What are they going through? Is there a way to help? I don't know.
And
100% sure.
And Christians in film and out of film in real life usually get a bad reputation about being judgmental and condescending and having a holier than thou attitude. And you do not seem like that. How can you explain the difference between you and the stereotypical Christian in life?
Well, thank you first of all.
Well, at least as far as I know, you're not judgmental and condescending, right. Or you haven't been during this episode and a few times we've met. Maybe you are once you're with your roommates. Who knows?
Well, I I would say I think I used to be very much that way, especially in high school when I first, not when I first came to Christ, but I'd say when I first kind of became more evangelistic and was trying to like save the world essentially. I kind of had this Messiah concept or complex where I was trying to like evangelize with my friends, and they were just like, "Get away from us!" Like what? Like we told you so many times, we don't care. And I was just, I don't know, I got so heartbroken by it, and I think I just left that, taking a different approach to it. Just trying to, instead of, it's kind of like with filmmaking, it's like you don't tell the person the story, you show them. So I think I try to take that same way with my life as far as faith. Like instead of trying to tell everyone like, hey, you need to be this way, you need to be that way, because I know like for my own life, I hate people that to me, even if they're pastors.
Or even if they're not Christians, anybody that does that to you, it's annoying.
Right. I think there's like, I hate it. So like, I try to, like, I've found that my life has been changed the most when someone is just loving me and just like when they show you, they actually care for you and not just like want something from you. So I've tried to change my approach and be more that way with other people and just try to show them like that I see you and I love you. God loves you. God sees you. If I can show you what He is like through me, then I've done my job. And I just want to keep, I want to point you in the right direction, but I also, want you to come to your own realization, or I want you to make the decision. Essentially, I'm not going to force you into a corner and be like, you have to be a certain way. Because I think, even within Christianity itself, all the different denominations and beliefs, it's like how, if we're called to love our brother and sister, but yet they believe something different, but they still believe in salvation. It's like, how do you deal with that? So I think that kind of changed my approach, I would say, to Christianity as well.
Cool. That was very beautiful.
Try to change my approach and be more that way with other people. And just try to show them like that I see you and I love you. God loves you. God sees you. If I can show you what He is like through me, then I've done my job. And I just want to keep, I want to point you in the right direction, but I also, want you to come to your own realization, or I want you to make the decision. Essentially, I'm not going to force you into a corner and be like, you have to be a certain way. Because I think, even within Christianity itself, all the different denominations and beliefs, it's like how, if we're called to love our brother and sister, but yet they believe something different, but they still believe in salvation. It's like, how do you deal with that? So I think that kind of changed my approach, I would say, to Christianity as well.
Cool. That was very beautiful. And we're going to take another quick break here. We will be right
This episode brought to you by the 27 known moons of Uranus. Titania, Oberon, Puck, Ariel, Miranda, Caliban, Sycorax, Prospero, Setibos, Stefano, Trinculo, Francisco, Ferdinand, Cordelia, Ophelia, Bianca, Cressida, Desdemona, Juliet, Mob, Portia, Rosalind, Margaret, Perdita, and last but not least, Cupid. This episode is not endorsed or supported by Titania, Oberon, Puck, Ariel, Miranda, Caliban, Sycorax, Prospero, Setibos, Stefano, Trinculo, Francisco, Ferdinand, Cordelia, Ophelia, Bianca, Cressida, Desdemona, Juliet, Mob, Portia, Rosalind, Margaret, Perdita, or Cupid.
And welcome back, everybody. We are still sitting here. Well, I'm not sitting here with him. We have Ramuel Galarza remotely with us. He's kind of sitting on my couch. I have my phone sitting on my couch, so it's like he's here, but just with a grainier voice. And we also talked a little bit about this earlier in the first segment, your photography that you do. Tell us a little bit about your photography, where people can see your work, how they can get a hold of you if they're looking for a photographer, or if you only do freelance and sell your stuff, or give us the down low on everything about Ramuel photography.
Yeah, well, I'm revamping my site, but you can go to www.ramuelgalarza.com and you'll see my photography and my film work as well. But my specialty is mostly in portraiture. I've been, just kind of started doing photography kind of like with film in middle school and in high school, mostly just taking snapshots of life. I think as like most people, do. but that kind of shifted into experimenting with like black and white film in college, just trying to learn more about photography and the art of it itself. And I just find that I love working with actors, so I think that also kind of translates to my love with working with people, doing photography. I just love the connection that you have with the other person, and finding a way to capture that moment, that personality, drawing it out of them and capturing that on into an image. I enjoy it. It really does parallel with my love for film and working with actors. I love black and white for its emotionality, or the way the contrast and the tones. I think are just so emotional and so beautiful. It speaks to me the most. But I love experimenting photography and trying different things. And right now I'm based in New York, but I have some people that want me to travel back to Atlanta and do some shoots for them. So I can travel. and you can go to my website, and I have a contact page there if you want to contact me for a shoot, whether it be film or photography, or really any kind of collaboration. I'm always open to like hearing what project you're working on, and would love to work with people. It's fun.
And how can they check up on you otherwise? Do you have an Instagram or a Facebook or a Twitter people can look at, or?
Yes, I have an Instagram. I have at Ramuel Galarza, which is a lot of my past work, and I have at Ramuel Galarza Photo, which is where I'm going to be uploading more of my newer photographic work, and kind of using the at Ramuel Galarza for more either personal life or also, some like personal work that I probably wouldn't post onto the photo one. So kind of, I'd say subscribe to both or follow both if you want to like kind of get the full spectrum of my work and of me as a person as well. I definitely do a lot more stories on my personal one, like just live and what I'm doing throughout the day and projects I'm working on, or maybe sometimes me singing or something. So yeah, get the full spectrum of it.
And to close things out, I am going to put you on the spot and ask you for a quick 5 seconds, because I can't afford to pay rights for anything. Sing us a song as we go into our closing theme song and say goodbye to our listeners. Oh, and thank you for joining us. I should thank you before we close out. Thank you for being here. Thank you for talking with us and giving us the inside info on what directors do and all the projects you've worked on. And it's been a pleasure, because I think we've only hung out like in person once, maybe twice before.
Basically. So true.
And so with that, sing us out into the break.
Thank you, Joe, for having me on your show. It's been a great pleasure. Look at this weather. I'm improvising a song right here for you. Yeah.
Thank you again to our special guest, Ramuel Galarza. The Above Average Joe Show was written and produced by me, theme song composed and or arranged by yours truly. Be sure to check us out on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitters, and look for us on Spotify and Stitcher. You can also check out another podcast I co-host, The Extra Unordinary, and other great media content by Moon Possum Productions at moonpossum.com.